Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all viewers. Thank you for joining the APO talk today. This is live from the APO Secretariat Office in Tokyo. I'm Tad Manabe, today's anchor. Today we have Mr. Elsoy from Turkey. He's a TEDx presenter on Industry 4.0. But today, he will talk about agriculture. Hi, good morning to Mr. Elsoy. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for joining. This must be early in the morning in Turkey.
Right.
Thank you for joining. As shown here, then you are the TEDx speaker and talked about Industry 4.0. And I learned from you that you have a 32 years of experience in Siemens in Turkey for electrification in the country. And now you are the founder of the ION Academy, supporting the business transformation and entrepreneurship. So finding a place for people to meet and discuss about those the business opportunities. But now you are engaged in agriculture. So I'm very much interested in learning from you that what is the background you are devoting yourself now to the agriculture, please.
Okay, Mr. Manabe, first of all, thank you very much to yourself and your team that made it possible that we came together with you and with the audience. And my history begins in a small village on the west coast of Turkey. I was born in a village, and the first 10 years I was living in a village. So I every time missed to be in the village all my time. And as I got retired 3 years ago from Siemens, it was already decided that I'm going to back to the soil, to the village life. And as I was searching what kind of farming, what kind of agriculture I'm going to exercise, I met two windows. One is permaculture and the second one is the digital farming. So the story begins like that, actually.
Okay, thank you. So if you have the movie, so if you don't mind, could you share the movie and talk about the bit more about the background, please?
Of course. Let's begin with the first slide, where I named it as innovative and productive permaculture. I believe it's a kind of a new manifesto, discussion point, actually. And I try to symbolize it on the slide. The butterfly symbolizes the permaculture, and the robot hand symbolizes the digital age which we are in, actually. And now I'm going to show you a video what happened last year in Ankara, in capital of Turkey. These were the clear signs of the climate change in my country. So we have done a lot of mistakes in the past. So we should try to avoid to make the same mistakes in the future. And let's begin from the very beginning, actually. The first farming exercises began on our globe, very close to Turkey, on the south part of Turkey. And for the definition, we have to speak about the science and the art. So we should not dismiss the art part of cultivating plants and animals, both in soil and water. So science and art, plants and animals, soil and water are the buzzwords, actually. And I wish that we all dream and can we create for all of us, for our children, for all the creatures on the earth, and for our planet, a new manifesto. So this is the question which I asked to myself, and I am asking to you now. And Agro 4.0, the name comes from combining permaculture principles of the past with the 4.0 technologies of today for the next for the new agro manifesto of the future. So what I'm trying to do is to combine the permaculture principles with the technologies of today. Next. Why? Because we are now working on plants the last 12,000 years, and we will be 10 million humans on the earth by the year 2050, which is around 30 years from now on. And we have done great mistakes, especially in the last 200 years. And we have today the industrial monoculture, which is not the nature itself, actually. We have played with that. And now I believe it's the time to say stop for the mistakes which we have done in the last 100 or 200 years, actually, which is very short. And need for a new, one page back. And we need a new manifesto. And I was trying to think of something new with my partner. What can we do as human on the earth, something new, maybe for the next 100 years, for example. And then how we have exercised as human the success of permaculture on different parts of our earth. And we can easily biomimicry what is going by itself, actually. And we all know the success of Industry 4.0 on the industrial world. So we can apply the success of the digital world to agriculture as well. And we are in the digital revolution age, not only in industry, but in health, in art, in logistics, in every kind of industry, actually. And we just exercised the pandemic, and we have seen that we have to come back to the nature as fast as possible. There are a lot of things which we are doing wrong, which we should not do anymore. And we need a new terminology, and we have to obey for everything we think and everything we do for full compliance and ethics.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your philosophy to the nature and obligations for the future, and your principle in agriculture by promoting permaculture with the combination of the new digital technologies. But before moving further, maybe we like to hear a bit more about the permaculture, because that may not be a new word, maybe a new word to some of the audience. So could you explain a bit more about the permaculture, please?
With pleasure, Mr. Manabe. Permaculture, and the name comes from, coming to the slide. Right. Permaculture, coming to the next slide, please, is actually created by Bill Mollison in Austria and his team, his friends, by the year 1970s. So it is now 60, 70 years old, which is very new, actually. It began with permanent agriculture, but then it was evolving in the past years, and it came to a point of permanent culture, not only agriculture, but as a whole culture. And very shortly, it says, look what the forest does, and do what the forest does, and don't do what the forest don't do. And he has a good statement, and he's saying that who has more than needed is immoral. So he began with this new action, or a kind of tsunami, actually. And then let's come to the definition. It's an innovative design methodology for creating sustainable ways of living, not only farms, but also building and villages and cities, actually. It is totally inspired by nature, and it's only imitating the nature. It's not fighting against the nature, but just copying the nature. And it involves all the ancient knowledge of agriculture and being happy. It is totally ethically based, and it's for everyone, everywhere actually, not only the farm, but also in the cities, every place where the human is living actually. The next one. There are three core values of permaculture. The first one is the earth care. Every decision, everything what we do has to care the earth, our planet. And then the second one has to care the people, the humankind. And lastly, there must be a fair share for everything what we produce. So we have to care the earth, we have to care the human, and we have to share what we have created. These are the core values. There are 12 principles. Let's go through the first 6 of them. Says that observe and interact, catch and store energy, obtain yields, apply self-regulation and feedback, use and value renewables like the energy, and produce no waste. The second 6 principles are design from patterns to details. So at the beginning, it's a design procedure actually. And then integrate and don't segregate. Use small, slow solutions. Use and value diversity. Use edges and value the marginal. And lastly, creatively use and respond to change. These are the 12 principles of permaculture. Let me show you a very short video of a small farm, very, very close to the farm which I am living. The family is trying to obey the rules of permaculture. Here you see the diversity of the plants. Everything is in peace and everything seems to be very healthy actually.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing us with the concept of permaculture, including the 12 principles. Now we have the good understanding of the permaculture concept. So to me, that this is really a good concept in terms of environmental sustainability or the building the society for the future. Maybe my first simple reaction or question is going to be that productivity, the challenge. How do you ensure the productivity component in agriculture, which is the very critical part? So I'm very much interested in how would you be able to maintain or even enhance their productivity in permaculture. So could you touch on that point? How do you manage that critical part?
With pleasure, Mr. Manabe. You are totally right. Permaculture is more or less speaks about the ancient way of living of the human actually, and respecting the nature as a whole. But the problem of today is not the romanticism, but it's more the productivity. So today the mankind is getting more and more every year. We will come to the numbers now, and we have to do something for the productivity as well. So coming back to the slides, let's begin with the history of us. It was about 14 billion years as it was only matter and energy. Then 4.5 billion years ago, our Earth was created. And 3.8 billion years ago, the first organisms began to live. And then 2.5 million years ago, Homo, the humankind, was living, and only 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, I mean the creatures like us, began to live, and the cognitive revolution, the way how we are thinking today, happened only 70,000 years ago, and 12,000 years ago we began with agriculture actually, which is very short in respect to the history of the Earth, universe, and the humankind actually. The next slide shows us the history of the Industry 4.0. For our audience who didn't touch the subject yet, a very short explanation. On the end of 18th century, the steam power came into power and the mechanical age began. So there was the mechanics instead of the muscles of the men. Then almost 100 years after, by the 19th century, electricity was founded and it ran the motor, and the motor ran the production lines, and the serial production began. And this was called the second revolution afterwards. And by the 20th century, by the 1970s, electronics, I mean the hardware and the software, was used by the industry, which is then laterly called the third revolution. And nowadays, since 10 years, very new, we are speaking about the digitalization of the industry, and this is the fourth industrial revolution, actually. The next slide shows us the history of the Agro 4.0. I mean, the first slide was the history of the mankind, the second history of industrialization, and now we came to the history of the agriculture. The first revolution afterwards was called, after the domestication, 10 to 12,000 years before Christ, till 700 after Christ, actually. Then the commercialization came to Earth. The Silk Line and all these, the transition of the fruits and the vegetables all around the world was called the second revolution between the years 700 and 1800. And then the third revolution was the intensification via mechanization and chemical industries between the years 1800 and 2000. And nowadays, again, just a few years, in the last few years, we are speaking about the digitalization of the agriculture, which is called Agro 4.0, the fourth revolution of the agriculture, actually. The next is the Agro 4.0. Here you see an equipment which actually is going over the field and collecting the information, the digital information via a drone, and send it to the cloud. And then we will see what will happen by the next slide, actually. Here are the technologies which are used in Agro 4.0, which are totally the same, which are used by Industry 4.0. Very fast, the cyber-physical systems, and then the vertical horizontal integration of the softwares, Internet of Things, I'm sure you have heard about it, big data and analytics, collecting data from the field and analyzing it for the decision-making purposes. Then the cloud technologies, every data which we collect, we send it to the cloud, and we work it on that in the cloud, actually. Then the autonomous robots, which are called cobots, are now on the fields as well. Then the augmented reality, you know, there is a artificial reality and augmented reality. Augmented reality is used very massively in industries, and nowadays in farming, agriculture as well. Then additive manufacturing, and of course the cybersecurity. These are the technologies which are now worldwide accepted for manufacturing industries, but at the same time for the Agro 4.0, the fourth revolution of agriculture. The next. Hello. Yeah. Yesterday we had hunting and collecting, and then we had the biorhythm, and then we began to settle our societies. Then the culture and tradition creation began, and then we began to interview with the nature, and transition to monoculture unfortunately happened yesterday. Today, we have insufficient biodiversity. We have, unfortunately, monoculture. We have havoc. We have contamination. We have weak population. We have toxicization and disappearing of gene transfer is unfortunately happening today because of our mistakes. Look at on the slide all these chickens living, thousands of them in one small farm, and we are trying to eat these chickens today, actually. Okay, the next. Tomorrow, according to our manifest, Permaculture plus digitalization, we are going to have data collection of geographic locations, product yield, soil properties, and product and field conditions, and the data processing. The first data collection, the second is data processing and decision making on mapping, modeling, economic analysis, geographic information systems, and we are going to have application of automatic control systems, application of variable level applications, and we will have applications of automatic applications which we are going to use in our agriculture activities. This slide shows us how the future is going to look like. It symbolizes here a farmer, and the farmer has an eyeglass, and all the digital information collected from the farm is sent to the cloud, and it is analyzed there. The data is changed to information, and this information is sent back to the glass of the farmer. So what you see on the slide is actually what the farmer is seeing on his eyeglasses. So this is the whole digital information, what he needs for his decision-making processes. So this is the future of the digital farming.
Thank you very much. It's really good to hear from you as an industry expert involved in the Industry 4.0 for a long time, and now you view this Industry 4.0 technologies or applicable to agriculture, including permaculture. In the agriculture sector, we have talked a lot about the adoption of the digital technology into agriculture. But also, it is quite good to hear from you as expert from the industry side that this is becoming true. But now, understanding the permaculture and digital technologies, I'm pretty much interested in how this is being on the field, how it's going on in the field. So I learned from you in the past that you have the field to demonstrate your concept. So could you share how you have advanced your permaculture 4.0 in Turkey from the starting till now? Could you explain that, please?
Of course. I'm going to show you a short video of our farm where I'm living now. The vineyard, at first an example from a neighbor which is using digital technologies for the productivity. And here you see the equipment and the information sent to the phone of his iPhone. So he is able to manage his farm with the help of the digital information he is collecting with all these sensors, right? And he has the information on his phone, actually. And Turkey is also is very active regarding digital Agro 4.0 ecosystem. On the right-hand side, you see it's not clear enough to read, but it's not important. These are the startups or more advanced companies of Turkey which are active in digital farming as of today. And the number is expanding very fast. Turkey has a great geographical positioning, and the land for farming is the second largest in Europe, and the land is enormously fertile. The life expectation of the people is close to 80 years, And we are able to live the 4 seasons at the same time in different parts of the country. And we have a very young population of around 30. And the next one is the picture of the farm which I'm trying to speak to you now. This is on the west coast of Turkey. And the vineyard in the middle is done by permaculture principles. And I'm going to show you the digital part as well. And I'm now working on the minus carbon farm, which maybe will be the first in Turkey. And I'm now over 60 years, and I'm going to use 5 technologies: the sun's photovoltaic energy, the sun's heat energy, the wind energy, the soil heat pump energy, and the biogas energy. And all these renewable electrical energy, which I'm going to create with the help of these 5 technologies, we are going to pump it to the grid, which means actually pump it to the planet. And according to our mathematical calculations, in the next 15 years, I will be able to erase the mistakes which I have done in the first 60 years of my life. And as I am going to go away from the planet, I will say I don't even owe something to you. So this is my dream, to have the first minus carbon farm in the country. The next. Here you see the vineyard with permaculture, and here you will see the digital equipment. You see it now. It has more than 10 sensors, and all the information collected is sent to my phone for my decision-making purposes. So the first example of Turkey for permaculture and digital equipment.
Interesting. So this is actually your field, vine field, grape field.
Right, right.
Okay, that's good. So how long have you been growing the vine now?
The last 3 years, and this year is the 4th year.
4th year. Okay, right. Oh, so then based on the data that all the gentlemen look at the smartphone, what is he actually controlling? Is it water
Actually,
or what? Yeah.
Yeah. The part in the soil measures the humidity and the temperature of the soil. And then the humidity and the temperature of the 2 layers of air is measured. At the same time, the wind speed and the wind phase is measured, from which angle it is coming. And also at the same time, the sun intensity and the angle of sun is measured, and the amount of rain is measured. And all this information is sent to the cloud via GSM technology, and it has a battery for 3 years, so you do not need any electricity connection. And all the digital data collected is analyzed in the cloud and sent as information to the application on my handy phone. So it helps me for the decision making, how much water I have to spend, which day, will it be colder the next day, or what kind of food I have to work on, if there will be some diseases or not. So there are a lot of information which comes from the digital data, which helps me for my farming decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. So then after growing the vine for 4 years, then how is the current level of yield? You get the good yield from the field, the vine field?
Yes, all my friends around which were dealing with vineyards and producing grapes for wine, and they told me many different things which were against permaculture principles. So I didn't listen to them, and I listened to my consultant. She's a young lady, an agriculture engineer, and I obeyed what she said regarding permaculture principles. And today, after the fourth year, we have no disease and a great amount of yield. And the success factor is that out of 100 grapes, the 10 of them was not able to live in the modern farming, but by us, it was not 10 to 100, it was only 5 to 100. So we were twice as successful as so-called modern farming. This is the success of permaculture.
Okay, thank you very much. So you have achieved a quite good yield, and hope the quality of the grape is also good. Yeah. So based on your experience so far, sounds like it is promising with the thanks to the digital technology. So then, what's going to be your next step based on the learning in the last 4 years? Could you elaborate?
Of course. And not only here, but all around the world, the next steps are going to be, next slide, please. Yes. At first, we have to promise for the mankind a higher speed, higher flexibility, higher efficiency, and the resources are getting scarce, and the absence of labor in the villages is a challenge. And we need new employments also in the villages, and we have to look after reverse migration, especially in Turkey. The vast amount of people are wishing to live in the cities and not in the villages. So we have to be successful to bring them back to the villages for farming. And agriculture is going to be the most strategic power for the future, because the number of mankind from 7.5 billion is going to be increased to 10 billion only in 30 years by the year 2050. So agriculture will be much, much more important. What we are going to speak in the future we are going to speak about the bacteria. We already began, but we are going to speak more and more about bacteria for the productivity of the agriculture. Then the nanotechnologies are going to be involved in farming as well. The cobots, as we mentioned, these are very clever robots, are going to be used in agriculture. Then, of course, the artificial intelligence, which already being used in manufacturing industries, is going to be used in agriculture as well. Then we are going to speak about regenerative agriculture. All the mistakes which we have done, we have to regenerate everything what we make mistakenly. And then the rewilding will be a subject. Chernobyl is a good example for that. After the disaster, all the nature is rewilding again. So we have to speed up that. And last, the community resilience will be the main subject for the future of the mankind on our planet. Next. So I would say, please let's discuss and engage, beginning from today, for all of us, for our children, for all the creatures on earth, and for our planet. I say, thank you for everybody who is listening us. And I want to thank to my business partner, Esra Deniz Karagöl, for her great help regarding the agriculture part of this new manifest, which combines permaculture and the digital technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ilsoy. So we learn your aspiration first to contribute to the future through the permaculture. And secondly, also we learn from you your aspiration to bring the smart digital technology 4.0, so-called, to enhance the productivity in permaculture, in agriculture. And thirdly, I think it is very important that this is not a concept, but actually you are running a farm to demonstrate your concept as a proof of evidence, proof of the concept. So thank you very much for those informations. And that triggered viewers with some questions. So I like to pick up some questions from YouTube viewers. The first question from Turkey, Ms. Gozi, is around the application in Turkey. So how this permaculture application being widespread in Turkey? Do you have some partners, or you are the innovator, you are just doing only by yourself now at this point? What's the situation in Turkey?
Okay. Of course, I'm not the inventor. I'm not the first guy. Maybe I am the first guy in this part of the country, on the west coast of Turkey. But the permaculture examples happened in Turkey 15 years ago, as far as I could watch. So there are many examples all around the country. It may be new because 15 years is not very old, but it is spreading very fast, much faster than it spreaded at the beginning. So I'm very certain that these principles are going to spread even faster in Turkey, in all parts of Turkey.
Okay, thank you. So the other question from Ms. Goji is that the big agricultural corporations, the big farmers, corporations, get benefit from permaculture in principles? How do you view?
Not yet, because the large farms are still exercising so-called modern farming, that they are using industrial seeds, they are using industrial chemicals, and these are all for the productivity. But that there is an other opportunity, there is an other way of producing or cultivating animals and plants without using chemicals and without using industrial parts. And this is what we are trying to share, actually. We have to discuss this new methodologies as well, which seems that it can be an option for the future of the mankind.
Okay, thank you very much. With linking to that part, in Turkey, is there any specific policies that encourage the farmers to adopt agricultural practice like permaculture, which is, trying to achieve the zero emission or the environmental contribution through subsidy or any other financial support? Is there any scheme in Turkey?
Yes, there are. It's very new. It's very new because the concept is new. But there are subsidizations, and I also applied to one of them. I am waiting for the answer. I believe it will be a positive answer. So if anybody is interested in our audience, and that they can easily get into contact with me, and I will be very much happy to be able to help them.
Okay, it's good to see that you are working with the government to, get the support from government side for the policy to accelerate your initiative. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Talking about the farm size, there is an opposite question from Mr. Malak from Malaysia. his question is that how to promote the permaculture in 4.0 to small and medium farmers. His question is not on the large size, but small farmers.
Good question. I think the farm which I'm working in is a good example for that. I'm not earning money by farming. I'm just trying to act like a laboratory to be able to show the people, to our neighbors, to all small farmers around the country that permaculture can be an option. It seems, and not only seems, but it's also realized that it's successful. And also the digital technologies combined with permaculture brings us greater success regarding productivity. So even though the large farmers in country do not seem to be very interested in permaculture, they are very much interested in digital farming. There is no discussion. But the small farmers, it is even easier for small farmers because regarding on the economical discussion, permaculture does not refuses to use industrial equipment and industrial chemicals. So this makes the production much, much cheaper, first of all. So it is also economical. It is ethical to the planet, ethical to the humankind, and also economical. Secondly, the digital equipment which I showed you on the video is is less than 1,000 American dollars, less than 1,000. So as you can see, the small farmers can invest in digital technologies in the first step on a very cheap basis. So we should not be afraid of the technology, and we should not think that the technology is very expensive. The beginning stages are not expensive for small farmers.
Thank you very much. So that links to maybe my question around the economics. I mean, as you mentioned, that the availability of the equipment with the reasonable price, that would be the enabler for small farmers, and also the scalability and the commercial profitability as a component of economics is a key driver for them, for the large corporations to adopt this technology. Based on your farm, how is your current profitability? I mean, you have been growing the vine for the last 4 years. Not sure if you have other crops under the permaculture concept, but looking at the income versus the investment, maybe this is the repeated question, but how do you generally see of this economic aspect?
A very good question. As I just mentioned, I do not want to earn money by farming, but as a hobby, I want to have the best wine in this part of the country. And the most important part is not the quality of the wine, but the cleanness of the wine. What does it mean? The soil which I had newly bought 4 years ago, nobody was farming the last 30 to 40 years because of many reasons, because the land pieces were too small for economical farming, and there is not enough water all around. And then the industrialization and the tourism has began 40 years ago, this part of the country, and all the young generation moved to the cities. And because of such reasons, and nobody was farming the last 30, 40 years, which means that no industrial chemicals were used on this soil. And we didn't use them as well because of the permaculture principles in the last 4 years. So the wine which will be produced will be one of the most cleanest, the most natural wine ever produced in the last 50 or 60, 80 years in the country. So this is my target, to have the most clean or natural wine actually. And I'm achieving it because all my neighbors, not close neighbors, but neighbors around who have vineyards, has illnesses and I don't have. This also shows that the permaculture principles help us to prevent illnesses of the vegetables or plants as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the economic aspect of the permaculture. And you also mentioned about the political aspect, that the Turkey government is supportive for this movement. And you said that there are the policies in place in the early stage. Maybe another component is the technical piece, which you mentioned about the technology coming in. And when you show one slide showing about that there's a lot of startups in Turkey. So when you look at the Turkey, so from the technical perspective, then do you see that the Turkey has the technical advantages for the technologies, or do they have any challenges or issues?
Mr. Manabe, as I just mentioned, Turkey has a very young population, 31 years in average. And this young population is very much interested in technology. And nowadays, almost every new child has a phone, a mobile phone with the applications. And they are dealing with the phones or pads or PCs 5 hours, 6 hours a day. I don't know if this is something good or bad, but they are in technology. And the pandemic showed us that farming and food industries are the most strategic industries for the future. And the younger generation do not want to live in the metropoles, and they do not want to live in the cities anymore. The lifestyle is changing. The younger generation with the age of 20s and 30s and 40s, they are all now searching, coming back to the villages and having a much healthier way of living. And all these people are well-educated people which are interested in technology. And I'm quite certain that Turkey is going to be one of the technological hubs for agriculture regarding technology in the future.
Thank you very much. Okay, good to hear from you that the Turkey, the development. So I'd like to learn more from you. Okay, so there are 2 more questions coming from member countries. One from Myanmar. Miss Su, what elements makes the permaculture different from organic farming? She's asking the difference of the organic farming versus the farm culture.
Okay, Mrs. Su, a nice question. Organic farming has some aspects which are also dealing with the so-called modern farming. Just as an example, before I began with the vineyard, all my colleagues, all my friends said that we have to dig the soil 80, 90 centimeters and bring the bottom part of the soil to the top and the top part of the soil to the bottom. This has no objection for organic farming, for example. If you want to have organic farming, you can do that. And everybody does it. But the permaculture says, no, you cannot touch, you are not allowed to touch the soil. Why? Because depending on the area, of course, but the most valuable part of the soil is the first 10 centimeters, where all the organic life is surviving, actually. All the insects and bugs and all these animals, they are living there, they are having their children there, and they die there, right? On the first 10 centimeters. If you dig the soil and turn it around, then the most valuable part goes down, and the overall efficiency of the soil goes down. And the permaculture says, don't do it. And we didn't do it. And we were twice successful. This is just one example.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, this is from Nepal, Pravin Dawadi. The question is that, do you have some models on small or medium scale permaculture, which makes the Nepal farmers being possible to adapt? So maybe that this question links to the applicability to other crops like vegetables in the small medium farm, and maybe the in a different environment like tropical, as many APO member countries belong to.
A real good question. Thank you for that. According to my knowledge, I'm now interested in permaculture the last 8 to 10 years. So I'm not an expert. I'm a student. I'm trying it in my farm as a student. I'm not an expert. But the courses which I have taken, and also the books which I have read, and all the professors in the universities which I had the chance to speak and discuss and fight with, they say the permaculture principles, which you can easily learn in a few hours via internet, there are enough information, more than enough information, is independent from geography, is independent from climate, which means all these principles can be used all around the world, in every kind of soil, and in every kind of climate. Maybe the applications can be a little bit different, but the principles are the same for the whole planet.
Okay, thank you very much. So the time is running up, so I'd like to move to the final question. This is about your view. As I introduced you in the beginning, that you have the 32 years of experience on the industry side, working at Siemens. So before engaged in the agriculture, then you are on, I would say, the other side with the Industry 4.0. Based on that experience, when you come into the agriculture, then what is your view in agriculture? What will make agriculture being more strong? The permanent permaculture is the one solution, but when you look at agriculture as a whole, then do you have any particular view about agriculture, how to strengthen?
Of course. Thank you for the question. Having so long years in the middle of the technology, my company was mainly dealing, as you mentioned, electrification, automation, and digitalization of the manufacturing industries. But not only manufacturing industries, also mining, logistics, healthcare, and all different kinds of industries, actually. But the technologies which are described, which I fastly mentioned, these 9, 10 technologies which are used in the fourth revolution of industry, happily are independent from industries, which means we are able to use all these technologies, digital technologies, to improve the productivity of the manufacturing industries, independent from the type of the industry. So coming to the agriculture, actually, we are also producing something as in the manufacturing industry. You may produce something, let's say, mechanical, or you may produce something as a plant or as an animal. There is no main difference in between regarding the technologies. All the technologies which are used in the manufacturing industries, in the cities, on the shop floors of the factories, are able to be used on the soil, on the water, in agricultural purposes as well. We just learned all those things in the last almost 10 years. Very new for all of us, very new. But the success is coming. The productivity comes from the digitalization of the agriculture, and the ethical part, the sustainability part, comes from the permaculture. If we can be successful, all of us, the humankind, all around the world, to merge these two aspects into one and use it as a productivity increasing measure, we may be very successful in the upcoming 10, 20, 30 years. I strongly believe in that. So there is no difference between the manufacturing industries and agriculture regarding digital technologies.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that encouraging word for the agricultural communities. So now the time is up, and I would like to close the session. So Mr. Ersoy, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And maybe a few years later, then we like to revisit your farm and to see that how the things are progressed. Thank you very much. And all the viewers, I hope his information and insights are useful to you. Now we'd like to close. So the APO Productive Talk will be held every Tuesday and Thursday, featuring world-leading experts in various topics around the productivity. So I hope you enjoy the APO Talk, and hope you subscribe this APO channel and stay tuned. Thank you for stay safe and goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Ersoy, and good luck.